Good afternoon. I'm Caitlin Matson. This is the Classical Cafe, and I have a green room today with Brent Williams, the founding artistic director of the Chamber Music Society of Wichita, already in its second full season, preparing for your very first concert of the season at the Wichita Art Museum on October the 16th. Hello, Brent.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going well. I'm looking at what you have coming up. You have the Public Quartet on October the 16th. Tell us a bit about them, kind of a brief rundown, maybe a little bio information. What can we expect?
Sure. The public quartet, at least instrumentally speaking, is a standard string quartet in that they have two violinists, a violist, and a cellist. However, they don't play a traditional set typically. Said another way, they tend to lean towards newer compositions and indeed works that are reimaginations of traditional quartets, and in some cases, straight up improvisations that are inspired by, jazz in the case of our first concert. So it's a very interesting concert that they are going to have for us, including Antonin Dvorak's American String Quartet, but like I said, a reimagining of it. So it won't be exactly as you would expect to hear it. A work by Rhiannon Giddens at the purchaser's option, which is a very heavy topic, and from a great musician and performer who you've probably heard of as leading the Silk Road Ensemble, if not from her time in the Carolina Chocolate Drops. They're also playing a piece by Fats Waller, a really great jazz pianist, one of my favorites of all time, actually. Something by Ornette Coleman, a piece by Roscoe Mitchell, a work by VJ Iyer that is inspired by James Brown, or the
All
music of
right.
James Brown, I should say, not necessarily his tumultuous life. And then they're ending with more improvisations that are based on music by Tina Turner, Betty Davis, Alice Coltrane, and Ida Cox. The whole program is, I think, titled "What is American?" Kind of trying to get at the heart of what exactly American concert music is or should be.
That sounds wild in a really good way. I hope you have a full house. I hope people come. I hope they're interested. I hope they're open. I love it. The Public Quartet has served as artist in residence at top institutions, including the Metropolitan Museum of Art, National Sawdust. They've appeared a wide variety of venues from Carnegie Hall to the Newport Jazz Festival. They have Grammy nominated albums, their Freedom and Faith album. And they're just at the top of their game right now. So it really is an opportunity to see a world-class chamber music ensemble that's doing really groundbreaking, spectacular things. I love that the entire evening is inspired by jazz, integrating jazz and classical, kind of reimagining what it means to love classical music in 2022.
I do too. You hear all the times with classical groups about how they're a fearless ensemble, but I'll tell you, improvisation uh, from a classical, direction is really difficult, and it as the thing that I think actually scares most classical musicians more than anything else in the world. And I really believe these guys truly are fearless because they're able to so easily kind of explore these ideas in front of a very quiet, very discerning classical crowd. It's terrifying for most.
When they do these improvisations, are they keeping traditional classical forms? I mean, you talk about improvisation. I think any of us automatically in our brains, suddenly jazz is popping into my head, but that's not it. It's not it. It's classical improvisation, and it's hard to wrap your brain around what that sounds like even.
Yeah, I mean, the easiest response is going to be you just have to show up to hear exactly how they're able to traverse it. But in the case of the American quartet, at least, I know that they start off with direct quotes from the quartet as you'd expect to hear them. And then they just start eventually drifting away from those. And whether or not they stick to a sonata allegro form in that first movement or not, I'm not really sure if they will. It depends on the evening. I'm not really sure. But there is certainly going to be an element of danger, I think, involved in each one of these for them more than us, of course.
Yeah, it's like they're adrenaline junkies.
They must be. I mean, uh, yeah, the works, like Fats Waller and Ornette Coleman, those I think will sound a lot more like straight ahead jazz, except for played by a string quartet. But the other ones are kind of curveballs. I'm curious about the forms that they pick also, and maybe they decide that in advance. Perhaps it just happens organically. I don't really know.
We'll be back in just a moment to talk more with Brent Williams about the Chamber Music Society of Wichita, both their opening concert, but their season in its entirety as well. We're going to listen to a bit of the string soloists of the Berlin Philharmonic performing Puccini's Cristantemi. I'll be right back with Brent Williams. Cristantemi, a work for string orchestra by Giacomo Puccini. That was the string soloists of the Berlin Philharmonic. And I'm Caitlin Matson here with Brent Williams from the Chamber Music Society of Wichita. Their upcoming opening concert is on October the 16th. Brent, please fill us in on all the details.
Absolutely. As you mentioned, Public Quartet's going to be performing October 16th at the Wichita Art Museum, which is thus far been our venue, and we're very happy to be there. More specifically, our performances happen at the Farha Great Hall, which is, where the Chihuly chandelier is located. So it's a beautiful space visually and acoustically. The concert itself starts at 5:30, but working backwards, there is a pre-concert chat at 5 o'clock, and an hour before that, even 4 o'clock is when our ticket holders can first be allowed on premises to, peruse the galleries, perhaps get some boxed bites at Muse Cafe or a drink, which, by the way, all of those things are allowed in the performance site as well. So if you don't quite finish your drink or your meal and you want to bring them in for the pre-concert lecture or the concert itself, you're welcome to do that. But everything, like I said, happens at the Wichita Art Museum, which is 1400 Museum Boulevard.
And an incredible venue. It just seems like art and chamber music are two peas in a pod. What is it about the beauty of chamber music that it does? It makes you want to sit and stare at a piece of art. Now you can do both at once with a glass
Exactly.
of wine at the Wichita Art Museum. And the
If you
rest
so
of your
desire.
yes, and the rest of your season, what else do you have coming up?
Absolutely. January 29th, we're going to welcome the Anchia Saxophone Quartet. March 19th, we have the Acropolis Reed Quintet. And then finishing off the season, April 16th, we have the members of the Outburst Chamber Orchestra.
And the Outburst Chamber Orchestra is your chamber orchestra in residence, correct?
That's right. Yeah, we basically have a roster of regional musicians that we are able to draw from concert to concert. So in some cases, we may have, a fairly large ensemble like we did this past year, where we got to play Copland's Appalachian Spring in its an original version. In this case, it's going to be smaller and more intimate. Brahms Horn Trio featuring Jeb Wallace, who's a Wichita State University faculty. Among other works to be determined. I actually have to figure out the rest of that program, to be honest with you.
Isn't that the fun part?
It is. I love that part.
Do you find it stressful? Stressful? Is there pressure of any kind to create something that would meet expectations or blow somebody's mind?
I don't think so. I mean, the only pressure I think I would have is if it were my last opportunity to do so, and I would want to pack in way too much stuff. I'm kind of overwhelmed with ideas for programs. Actually, I have literally Microsoft Word documents full of program ideas that many of which will never, of course, see the light of day. But coming up with them is the easy part. It's finding the time to perform them all is the issue, I think.
I find the programming aspect of being in the arts really satisfying. I mean, it's different here at the radio station, although, you're still just creating something beautiful within a certain time frame, and it can be really fun to do.
Oh yeah, you get to do it like every day, practically.
That's right. I did it this hour. And you know what I thought of? I thought of how Public Quartet is going to kind of push what everybody knows to be true about classical music and chamber music and coming up next, I have a Paul McCartney piece because what some people, many of us, might not realize is that Paul McCartney also composes classical music. I have a piece for string orchestra I'm going to play next called Tuesday.
Excellent. That's a
Yeah,
good segue.
isn't it? I mean, that's why they pay me. Brent Williams, thank you for being here. And how wonderful and thankful we are. How wonderful it is and thankful we are that we now have the Chamber Music Society of Wichita, performing at the Wichita Art Museum. October the 16th, doors open at 4 o'clock. There's a pre-concert talk at 5, and at 5:30 the performance begins. You can get tickets on your website, which is
cmswichita.org.
cmswichita.org. Brent, have a wonderful opening concert and come back again, please, and talk to us more about chamber music.
Absolutely. Thank you, Caitlin.